Awu friends and enemies, hello. It is I, Tony. I am actually using a different voice mod now. Akira suggested I go through Voice Lab, set up stuff, and this is what they came up with. What do you think? Anyway. As you can see, Mini-Me is not running. It's because I'm using my phone to keep an eye on chat. Because this game I cannot resize, no matter how hard I try. I do apologize for the late start and the fact we are not on schedule for this game. I'm going to be reworking some stuff. I am going to finish my Digimon Seekers read-through with Kira. The Kira House said that's something they want to do. My schedule has changed at work, so I'm going to see what I can do to, mitigate the harm caused by that schedule change. But I should be able to stream more often again, so that's a good thing. Without any further ado, they'd eaten breakfast at a coffee shop in the station building. By chance, the inside of the shop had been decorated with Halloween colors since it was October. It seemed that Maria had really taken a liking to that. Ever since, she had been making a fuss inside the train about wanting to have a Halloween festival, without caring that she was attracting the attention of others. Halloween is popular in Europe and America, but people are hardly familiar with it at all in Japan. The shopping district was colorfully decorated with orange pumpkins. But the costume parades of children demanding sweets and saying trick-or-treat were nowhere in sight.
Halloween 祭りがしたい。こんなお洋服やだ。魔女の格好がいい。
親族会議は遊びじゃないのよ。おじいさまにお会いするんだから、ちゃんとしたお洋服じゃないとダメ。
While it wasn't completely full inside the train, there were enough people here that almost all of the seats were occupied. Among them, Maria was making a fuss, kicking her feet back and forth in her seat, while Rosa scowled at her. Rosa told her many times in a low voice to stop, but Maria was taking no notice whatsoever. Once Maria gets this way, no matter how much you try to explain the situation or calm her, she doesn't listen. In the past, Rosa used to pamper Maria and give in to her at times like this, but that had probably been the problem. Almost certainly, the young Maria had formed the wrong impression that if she kept complaining noisily, her mother would give in and listen to her. That error had been brought to Rosa's attention through an educational book, and since then she had hardened her heart so as not to pamper her beloved daughter. But Rosa could manage less and less mutual understanding with Maria, and it had become more and more common that she felt discouraged by her own powerlessness.
Halloween! Halloween! お菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうぞ。
あなたにあげるお菓子はありません。さっき朝ごはんを食べたでしょ。
お菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃう。お菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃう。
As Maria kicked her feet, a stout old woman sitting in the seat across from Maria picked candy out of her handbag and gave it to her.
お菓子もらえた。お菓子もらえた。見て見て、ママ。ハッピーハロウィーン。
こらマリア、勝手に人からお菓子をもらっちゃダメでしょ。返しなさい。
いいんですよ。元気なお嬢さんですこと。おいくつです？
There may not have been any malice in those words from the old woman, but it seemed that Rosa had taken that in an extremely humiliating way.
マリア、知らない人からお菓子をもらっちゃいけないっていつも言ってるでしょ。
おー、これはマリアがもらったの。やだ、マリアの。
話しなさい。 ママの言うことを聞けっていつも言ってるでしょ。
So we're seeing more of Rosa's abusive side. Ugh. Just... Ugh.
マリアの
I don't know if you folks can hear that with the sound effects from the voice mod, but Maria is attempting to use magic right now. Because one of the magic-related sound effects from the last chapter is playing underneath Maria's line.
その言うのをやめなさいって言ってるでしょ。
Rosa reflexively hit Maria violently on her cheek. Yep. Okay, so that is confirmation that Rosa deserves to die. In a flash, Maria started crying loudly. Rosa immediately snatched the candy from Maria's hand and stuck it out towards the dumbfounded old woman sitting next to them.
うちの子に勝手にお菓子を与えないでください。
ごめんなさい。
She's even scolding an old woman for giving a kid candy. Ugh. Breathing heavily, Rosa once again held the candy out to the old woman. The woman looked confused for a moment about what she should say, but then understood that perhaps her actions may have caused trouble for this parent and child. She accepted the candy back, apologizing. Then Rosa finally took notice of her surroundings. Oh, maybe Maria wasn't the one using magic. Maybe Rosa was. Oh, no. Her daughter's clothes were all messed up, and she was crying, shouting with her nose dripping. And there were many dumbfounded passengers watching. Except for the sound of the train running, the rail car was completely silent. Fortunately, that pitiful silence didn't last more than a short while. However, in its place came an even more painful atmosphere, as everyone whispered. Maria shouted, cried, kicked, and stomped her feet as usual, paying no heed to the people sitting around her. Impulsively, Rosa tried to slap her again, but she noticed the cold eyes of the people in the train and couldn't do that anymore. And when the train stopped, Rosa got off, forcibly pulling Maria by the arm and almost dragging her along the ground. Ugh. As usual, Maria didn't stop crying. Rosa took her to the end of the platform and hit her cheek again. At the moment she was hit, Maria stopped crying for an instant, but before long she shouted and cried even more than before. Rosa, whose emotions had exploded, grabbed Maria by her collar and pulled her hair as if to rip it out. Along with those severe words, Rosa hit Maria's head over and over again. The more Maria cried and shouted, the more Rosa hit her. And the more Maria was hit, the more intensely she cried and shouted.
いかがされましたか？
何かご用ですか？
One who timidly called to her was the station attendant. Rosa glared at him with a look that said, "Don't cut into the problems of a mother and child, stranger." The station attendant surely hadn't wanted to talk to her. However, Rosa had been yelling on the platform for a much longer time than she had imagined. Her emotional scolding had caused the passengers on the platform to advise the station attendant that it would be a good idea to speak to her. Rosa yelled at the station attendant that they would go on the next train and not to bother them anymore. And then finally, or maybe we should say for the second time, she noticed the passengers on the platform staring at her from the distance. Rosa sweated slightly. She felt the wind chill the sweat, tormenting her. Mario was still jumping bad again.
帰ってきて。
Are we back? Okay. It looks like we're dropping frames. Okay. It looks like we were dropping frames. Part of the reason why we decided to do this. Let's try this again. Rosa fell to her knees and hugged Mario. His face was all soggy with tears and mucus.
マリア、ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
ママ、おかえり、おかえり。
Finally, Mario realized that her mother had turned back to being her mother. Give me a moment. I'm actually going to look up something real quick. She does not have BPD. Finally, Mario realized that her mother had turned back to being her mother. Then, she clung to her mother's body and cried, burying her face in her mother's chest.
悪いママを許して。悪いママを許して。本当にごめんなさい。
However, Rosa is probably also on the autism spectrum. She's just she just masks better than Maria does. And unfortunately, her sensory issues are interfering. I'm fairly certain that Kinzo, at the very least, was autistic, given his obsessive nature and special interests. And Rosa appears to be the daughter that inherited the same just slightly different symptoms. And then Maria. But just because Rose is autistic, that does not excuse her behavior. She is very abusive to Maria.
ママをどうか嫌いにならないで。
マリアは全然平気。ママを嫌いになんかならない。ママはまた悪い魔女に乗り移られていただけ。でもママが帰ってきたから平気。
悪い魔女にママはまた乗り移られていたの。ごめんね。本当にごめんね。
For a long time, the two of them hugged each other, asking for forgiveness and sending words of forgiveness back. After a while, the two of them gradually calmed down and naturally drew their faces apart. Maria's face, Rosa's face, both were deep red after crying their eyes out.
マリアはハロウィンのお祭りがしたいの？
うん。ジョージお兄ちゃんやジェシカお姉ちゃんにかぼちゃマシュマロ見せてあげたかった。
That was a sweet which had been alongside the cash register at the shop where they'd eaten breakfast. It was a fancy sweet that had a big orange marshmallow in the shape of a jack-o'-lantern stuck at the end of a stick. Maria had wanted that and insistently pestered for it. Rosa had disallowed saying there was no way she could buy such a sweet right after they'd had breakfast.
じゃあマリア、この町に売っているかどうかわからないけど、降りて探してみようか。
ママ大好き。愛してる。ありがとう。
私もよ、マリア。
The truth was that they had no time to waste loitering around at a stopover station. If they missed the airplane, they would fall half a day behind schedule. She should have left home with more time to spare, but she had ended up leaving late after spending too long choosing Maria's clothes. Because of that, Rosa had been a bit impatient since the morning. She looked at the clock. They should be getting on the next train immediately. Her daughter had firmly joined hands with her to go buy the sweet together, and that hand was warm. To Rosa right now, it was more important to regrow her bonds with Maria. Maria was not only Rosa's beloved daughter, she was everything Rosa had. Fortunately, she could see there was a big supermarket right in front of the station. Maybe she wouldn't have to find a sweet exactly like that one, but Maria would probably accept something similar. Besides, Rosa also couldn't show up with a face swelled up from crying. She would have to fix her makeup.
それで、いとこのみんなを一緒に驚かそうね。
うん。ママと一緒に買うお菓子なら何でもいい。
The two left the turnstiles of the station in this unknown town. Maria walked across the pedestrian crossing together with her mother, feeling very pleased, though she was walking in an amusement park. As though she was walking in an amusement park. Both faces were deep red, but warmth could be seen between the two of them, mother and child, as they smiled at each other awkwardly.
"あなた、こんなところでどうされたのですか?"
君か。何でもない。考え事をするのにここが少し心地よかっただけだ。
今日の準備はすべて手配が終わっています。 あとはお茶でも飲みながらくつろいで待とうではありませんか。
スノ、君にいつも面倒なことを全て押し付けている。
どうか私をもっと頼ってはいただけませんか。私はあなたの妻です。
無論君にはいつも助けられているし、感謝もしている。だからこそ私は私の仕事に専念できる。
分かっています。お仕事のこと、そしてお父様の遺産の話ですね。
君には関係のないことだ。欲深な兄弟たちの腐肉の漁り合いに過ぎん。
大丈夫です。あなた全てうまくいきます。あなたのお仕事がうまくいかなかったことはありません。
Natsuki softly cuddled close to Krause's shoulder. Knowing what we know about Natsuki, she is working very hard to try to keep Krause in the head of the family. And she's doing pretty much all of the background work that he doesn't want to focus on. For clarification, for those of you just joining who haven't seen the earlier parts, Krause, on the other hand, is a selfish bastard. Let me pull up the character sheet. Natsuki is the strongest of all of the adult cast. Just emotionally and mentally. But she is super strict on her own daughter, and mildly emotionally abusive to her, and very emotionally abusive towards the servants. The only person not guilty of some form of abuse is Battler. Even Maria isn't innocent. She spoke with words to reward Krause for the difficulties of his work, but Natsuki was herself the one who knew best that it wasn't going well. Krause's enterprises were something like a seesaw where large amounts of money swung. A big investment leads to a large return, but the swaying of a large-scale seesaw is large yet sluggish, and not something which shows immediate results. At times he would make more investments so that the seesaw inclined faster toward the good side. Naturally, he did that because he had the confidence in that, in the not-so-distant future, he'd be able to recover all the investments made. However, the seesaws Krause chose never turned out as he would have liked them to. His foresight wasn't wrong, but times were slow. They never caught up with him. For example, think of a literal seesaw placed in the park. Due to its great popularity, there was always someone playing on it, so if he wanted to play, he would have to wait a long time for his turn. And then one day he found that seesaw vacant, straddled it, realizing he was the first to arrive and had it all to himself. However, nobody got on the opposite side of the seesaw, so he couldn't play on it. No matter how much time passed, nobody came to the opposite side of the seesaw. Seesaw is a popular piece of playground equipment, so if you waited, another person would definitely show up. Krause noticed. The weather looked like it was getting worse. That's why nobody was coming outside to play. But the seesaw is a popular piece of playground equipment, so someone would definitely come. If he vacated his place because the weather seemed to be getting worse, someone would definitely snatch his place away. And he would end up only longingly gazing from a distance at someone else having fun playing on the seesaw again. In other words, he's a gambling addict. But instead of gambling, it's investment culture. Just something rich people do when they don't want to gamble. They get the same thrill out of an investment paying off. As someone would get from winning at slots. I've seen this before. I understand it. I don't like it, but I understand it. On one side of the seesaw, he continued to wait patiently, all alone. That was Krause's current enterprise and situation.
私にもう少しの勇気と自分の先見性を信じる自信があればいつだって失敗はしなかった。
ええ、そうです。あなたの先見性はいつも間違っていません。あなただけがお父様の才覚を受け継いだのです。他の兄弟たちが誰も受け継がなかった天性のものを受け継がれた。
なのに私はそれを信じられず、いつも臆病に自らの事業を畳んできた。なぜ自分を信じることができないのか。自分を信じられない男を誰が信じる。誰も信じない。私はいつも敗者の座るべき椅子に自ら座り、親父にもおふくろにも兄弟たちにも笑われる。私はいつになったらこのコンプレックスから解放されるのだ。いつになったら。
Only Natsuhi knew. She knew of Krause's anguish. As the eldest son of the Ushiromiya family, who would have to shoulder a big responsibility, he couldn't open his pained heart to anyone, which would always be compared to his father's great enterprise.
あなたが親族会議に専念できるよう、すべての手配を済ませています。すべて。
すまん。親父殿の件は問題ないかね。
はい。源氏と南條先生は私たちの味方です。あの強欲な兄弟たちを決してお父様には合わせません。
Okay. Given what we know about Natsuhi, I'm going to repeat my theory that maybe Kinzo might be dead already. It's just a theory.
Moshi. はい、ゴーダです。ええ、お任せください。年に一度の大仕事に腕が鳴っております。
Ingredients of varied colors had been gathered in the kitchen, and preliminary arrangements had already been started. Even though it was still morning, the ingredients for dinner were already in saucepans and steaming. Normally, he had to deal with several assorted matters other than cooking. But on the day of the family conference, he could devote himself to it entirely. To Goda, who was originally a chef, this was surely the greatest gala occasion of the whole year.
ええ、ディナーには子牛のステーキを。素晴らしい肉がすでに保冷庫で今夜を待ちわびておりますよ。まかないも今夜はぜひ期待してください。
It was rare for Goda to be in this good of a mood towards his fellow servants. Yeah, it isn't just a matter of mood. Goda's abusive to all the other servants, including Kumasawa, who's fishy as fuck. Like, she's a fishy old woman. That's her character archetype. To Goda, who boasted about being a chef who worked exclusively for the Ushiromiya family, being given the right to show off his cooking at the family conference was the greatest honor.
わかった。任せるのでよろしく頼む。あと、熊沢がそちらにいないか。
熊沢さんですか。先ほど見かけましたが、こちらにはおりません。ゲストハウスの方へ準備に行かれたのではないでしょうか。
また油を売っているのか。いや、結構だ。では引き続きよろしく頼む。
ええ、万事このゴーダにお任せを。
Genji placed the telephone back on the receiver, sighing lightly, thinking of Kumasawa, who was no doubt hiding and slacking off, even though things were this busy. And the ostentatious Goda, He only felt like doing anything on a day when he could show off. Genji sighed once again.
失礼します。ゲストハウスの各お部屋の準備が整いました。
お嬢様より、お子様方が泊まれるよう、4人分の用意をするようにとのご指示を賜りましたが、いかがいたしましょう。
今年は6年ぶりにバトラ様がお見えになるそうだ。お嬢様もいとこ4人で夜更かしをされたいのだろう。準備するように。奥様にはお伝えしなくてよい。
そうですね。かしこまりました。
今夜は深夜勤で、そのまま明日は早朝勤か。しんどい2日間になりそうだな。
そういえば、台風が直撃するって天気予報で言っていますね。大丈夫でしょうか。
台風がよほどそれない限り、場合によっては親族の皆様方のお帰りの船に響くだろう。親族会議の日程が10日火曜あたりまで長丁場にとのんは明日落ち着いて愛想よく。
はい。注意します。
Both of them that interaction or
お客様がお越しにならくれもように。
心得ています。いつだって、ここには大切なお客様しか
カノン、今日は本当の意味で大切なお客様を迎える。
Oh God.
心構えを改めるように。
The way he said important guest and how it's in italics. Oh no.
はい。
シャノン、どうした？さっきから何かそわそわしているようだが、何か時間の約束でもあるのか？
いえ、なんでもありません。失礼いたしました。
姉さん、今日は大切なお客様がお越しになる日なんだよ。プライベートとは切り離すようにね。
プライベートなんか知りません。
Shannon blushed just a bit. She turned her gaze away from the clock. Was it about time for the airplane carrying the family to arrive at Nijima? She had thought she had been hiding the fact that her long-awaited reunion with George was making her heart palpitate, but Cannon, who stood at her side, understood perfectly.
Shannon, シャノン、これを黙って受け取ってくれ。
Inside a bathroom stall, George was practicing something over and over, taking out a small velvet box hidden in his pocket like a quick-draw desert gunman.
いや違うな。
Quick-draw desert gunman, sorry.
シャノンは牽引力のある男性が好きなんだ。もっと馬力がある感じじゃないとダメだ。シャノン、これを薬指につけるんだ。命令だよ。ああ、左手とちゃんと言わないと右手にされちゃうかもしれない。でも少しは自由意志がないとなんだかその
As he crossed his arms, moaning and groaning, someone knocked on the door. George was startled back to reality.
お、ジョージ君、大丈夫か？腹の調子でも悪いのか？
ルドルフおじさん、大丈夫です。平気です。ご心配は無用です。
そっか。ならいいんだけどな。無理して力みすぎるなよ。尻が切れちまうぜ。
Rudolph washed his hands, laughing cheerfully, and left. George knew that the most embarrassing part hadn't been overheard, and he patted his chest in relief.
キリエ、ローザはまだ来ないのか？
まだよ。遅いわね。
天候調整中だからいいようなものを。これで普段通りのダイヤだったらあいつ、乗り遅れちまうぜ。そしたらどうする気なんだ、あいつ。
ローザさんだっていい年の大人よ。なんとかするわ。兄って人はいくつになっても妹を子供扱いなのね。
親父だって、いくつになっても子供だけどな。
だと？俺が子供ならおめえは赤ん坊じゃねえか。ほれほれ、バトラちゃん、高い高い。
やめろ、くすぐってやめ。
親子ってより悪ガキ仲間って感じね。ほら、いらしたわよ。
おーおーおー、餃子さんやないか。マリアちゃん、久しぶりやの。
久しぶり。
マリア、お久しぶりです。でしょ？言ってごらん。
お久しぶりです。
そうや。よく言えたな。ご褒美に飴玉あげような。あれ？どこにしまったんや。
ローザさん、お久しぶりです。
Okay, so this part's playing out.
マリアちゃんもお久しぶり。大き
いや、今日は。
お、ローザ。
列車のぼやか船で6時間も揺ららとへ1時。
俺が大きくな
前にそれはかわい。
そっか。10月だからハロウィン
There,
か。
now it's different. Oh, right, it's October, so that must be for Halloween.
お菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうぞ。
Try and take a treat away from a small child. Normally, you'd expect them to cry and start a fuss. The adults thought that method wasn't good, but surprisingly, Maria looked pleased, her face splitting into a wide grin.
ハロウィン、ハロウィン。ほらママ、バトラもハロウィン知ってる。ほらほら。
こら、バトラお兄ちゃんと呼びなさい。ごめんね、バトラくん。
いやいや、気にしないっすよ。俺はバトラと呼んでくれ。俺もマリアって呼ぶからな。ほらマリア、ハロウィンだぞ。お菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうぞ。
お菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうぞ。
From inside her handbag, Maria picked out a jack-o'-lantern sweet identical to the one she had in her hand, and presented it to Battler. It seemed that Battler accepting it was enough to confirm their friendship. The adults felt admiration at how children have their own ways of communicating. To Maria, who had been complaining that she wanted to have a Halloween festival, it must have felt like Battler was a friend, since he knew about trick-or-treat. Her defensive posture from before was completely gone. Now she was all merry, as though they had been friends for decades.
そうだな。日本じゃハロウィンってマイナーなイベントだよな。仮装行列で練り歩くなんて、向こうのニュースではよく見るけど、日本じゃ見たことないぜ。
マリアも仮装したかった。仮装していとこみんなでお菓子をくれなきゃいたずらしちゃうぞってやりたかった。
そっかそっか。今度俺と一緒にやろうな。マリアだったら何の仮装をして練り歩きたい？
魔女ベアトリーチェ。
Okay, so in this timeline we get a little bit of her obsession with witches early. Okay.
おや、お嬢様、こんなところに。奥様が探しておいででしたよ。
探されたくねえからこんなところにいるんだぜ。どうせ、みなりは大丈夫かとか、 言葉遣いをちゃんとするようにとか、お小言が言いたいだけに違いないぜ。
違いありません。
なぜか親族会議の日に、
どうしてでございましょう。
一族老頭が集まる日だ。今年は6年ぶりにバトラも来るそうじゃねえか。そんな感じでさ、何十年かぶりに今までずっと姿を現さなかった親族がひょっこりと現れるんじゃないかっていつも思ってるんだよ。
So Jessica is afraid that the witch might show up in person.
ほほう、そんな親族がおりますでしょうか。
ベアトリーチェ様だよ。素性は誰も知らない。あるいは大昔のじい様の愛人なのか。
We're getting that mistress theory early too.
その子孫がひょっこりと現れて、授けた黄金を返せなんて言い出すかもしれないぜ。
クラウス様たちは親方様の遺産問題で今年も議論されるでしょうから。こうも魔女の黄金の話で盛り上がっては、黄金を与えた魔女本人がそろそろおいでになってもおかしくありませんね。
熊沢さんはさ、辞めたり勤めたりと忙しいけど、源氏さん並みに昔からここに出入りしてるわけでしょ。ベアトリーチェのこともっと知ってるんじゃないの？
さて、どうでしょうね。
You're suspicious as that, Kumasawa-san.
思い出そうにもこの老いぼれ、今朝の朝食すらも思い出せませんので。
Okay, that's a blatant lie.
熊沢さんはいっつもそういう言い方で逃げるけど、何か知ってそうなんだよな。
Jessica knows that Kumasawa knows more than she's letting on.
知ってて物陰で笑ってるみたいな陰湿な雰囲気が時々するぜ。
これは手厳しい。隠し事など何もしておりません。
Bullshit.
私から申し上げられることは、ベアトリーチェ様は黄金の魔女であられて、この島の夜を支配されているもう一人の主人であられるということだけでございます。
じいさまの受け売りかよ。給料もらってるとはいえ、じいさまの妄言に付き合うのも大変だな。
ただ、これだけは申し上げられます。
何？
六軒島は太古の昔、小豆島と呼ばれて恐れられてきました。小豆は悪食がなまったものと言われ、本当は悪食島と呼ばれていたのだと、漁民たちの間では伝えられておりました。
Interesting.
前にも聞いたよ。この辺は暗礁が多くて海難事故が多かったから、領民たちが恐れてむやみに近づかなかったって話だろ。
悪食島には悪霊が住み着いていて、太古この島に関わり命を奪われた人間はあまりにも多いのです。
それを旅の修験者だかなんだかが例の社を作って鎮魂したんで収まったってんじゃなかったっけ？うさんくせえ話だぜ。
その鎮魂の社はこの夏、暗き闇を引き裂く紫色の不気味な雷で打ち砕かれたとか。
熊沢さんその話好きだな。確かに鎮魂の社が落雷でなくなっちまうなんて不気味だが、 まあ、もともとオンボロだったしな。ちょっと高い波にでもさらわれたんじゃねえのかな。
眠りから目覚めた悪食島の悪霊がベアトリーチェ様を呼び寄せたのです。もしベアトリーチェ様が親族会議に訪れられるようなことがあったなら。
あったなら？
Kumasawa kept silent for a moment there. Jessica, who wanted her to keep going, found that the silence was very eerie. Once Kumasawa was satisfied she had spooked Jessica just the right amount, she grinned broadly.
はてさて、どんなことになるやら。
へえ、そいつは素敵じゃないかよ。
でしょ？たまには優雅な時間を得て、あなたの心を豊かにするのも、あなたの仕事に役に立つんじゃないかしら。
So this must be another flashback to a couple months before the incident.
だな。心と財布は豊かじゃなきゃいけねえ。わかったよ。その日は開けておくことにする。予約を頼むぜ。
わかったわ。絶対よ。
ああ、よろしく頼む。愛してるぜ、キリエ。
Say what you will about Rudolph being inconsiderate. Here. So, Rudolph, to recap from last arc, his wife died, and so he remarried to Kyrie. He also may have done some insider trading in the States, meaning he's now in deep legal trouble. He is the least abusive adult. Ava's abusive to George and to Shaman. Natsuhi is abusive to Jessica. Kraus is abusive to everybody. Hideyoshi is pleasant, but he is abusive to Shaman a little bit. Like, harassment level abusive. Rudolph and Kyrie both tease Battler, but they genuinely care about him to an extent. Unless there's something with Kyrie we haven't seen yet. But what we've seen of Rudolph so far, at the very least, has proven that he does deeply care for Battler. Nanjo is obviously lying about Kinzo's health. He could die at literally any second, and yet he keeps saying 3 more months, 3 more months, 3 more months. And if I'm right, Kinzo's actually already dead. And everything we see of him is but an illusion conjured by the magic of Rokunejima. And the servants are all in on it. But Beatrice is on the character list. Why? I don't know. Maybe because she helped Shannon and Cannon fall in love with George and Jessica, respectively. Maybe. After kissing the receiver, Rudolph hung up. In front of his seat there were many executives with their sleeves rolled up, eagerly awaiting the end of that phone call.
すまん、待たせたぜ。アメリカから連絡は来たか？
はい。外線にデイル渡辺弁護士からです。おつなぎします。
結局のところ、感触はどうなんだ？
それが一つ芳しくないようでして、先方は裁判をも辞さないつもりのようです。
やっぱりごまかしきれねえかな。繋いでくれ。
わかりました。すぐに。
The executive ordered the secretarial office to connect him to the external line. Immediately, the telephone in front of Rudolph started ringing.
もしもし。ハローハロー。お待たせしました。後宮です。どうもどうも。いかがですかそちらは。
Hello, President 後宮。挨拶は抜きで本題に入りましょう。いいニュースと悪いニュースがありますが、どちらを先にしますか？
悪いニュースが先がいいな。デザートがないと頑張れないたちなんだ。
わかりました。悪いニュースは先方が東方を告発する準備に入ったということです。つい先日類似した裁判で原告が圧勝する判決が出されました。被告側も東方が主張するのとほぼ同じ内容で論戦していたのですが、全てにおいて却下されました。
Yep. Given this time period, it was insider trading. Definitely.
残念ながらこのまま法廷に臨めば東方の主張はことごとく却下される可能性が極めて高いでしょう。
This is sounding like an insider trading trial from the 1980s. So, just the way that he's phrasing it.
例の裁判、全滅だったか。うちより有利な条件だったと思ってたんだが、そりゃ辛いな。で、いいニュースは？
先方の幹部と接触できました。先方に東方の立ち位置を説明し、先方のブランドイメージを侵害する意図がないことを説明し、理解を得ることができました。先方は近日中に条件提示を行い、それらの履行が行われるなら告発を見送ると約束しました。取締役会のナンバー2による発言です。
感触は？
正直、非常に厳しいものになると予想されます。東方の想定では避けられないものとして、社名変更、ブランド名変更。
Oh God, it's worse. Hold on.
交渉の余地のあるものとして、和解金額、大手新聞への謝罪広告掲載、それらの履行期間と見ています。
Rudolph, I know it's not your fault. Just the way that last line was phrased. Here, let me... I just need to stare at Rudolph's face and be like, oh, bugger. Here. We have no intention of tarnishing their brand image, and I managed to get their understanding. They will offer us conditions in a few days, and if these are carried out, I promise to withdraw from the prosecution. This comes straight from the number 2 man. Your impression? Honestly, I expect the conditions will be extremely severe. I would assume that changing the company name and the brand name will be inevitable. Intellectual property rights violation. This was a big section of civil lawsuits in the 80s. I don't know why I didn't think about it. But this just confirmed it. There's a trademark dispute right here. Oh, God.
うちに潰れろと一言言やいいのに、周りくどい奴らだぜ。
先方は近年2代目社長に交代したばかりで、まだ足固めが終わっていません。東方が徹底抗戦した場合、現社長に失点を与えたい勢力が何らかの利的工作をしかねないと懸念しています。そのため、先方トップも本件を速やかに解決したいという思惑があるようです。そのため、迅速な和解のために多少の条件緩和を引き出せる余地も残っているかもしれません。
いずれにせよ、とんでもねえ金が必要になるか。
その覚悟は必要です。そして、それでも懲罰的賠償金よりははるかに安いかと。
ありがとう先生。また進展があったら連絡してください。先生は高級鳥だから、ヨタ話もできねえ。サンキュー、サンキュー。グッバイ。
Rudolph hung up the phone. Seeing the executive sitting in the reception seats could guess what had been said.
聞こえたか、野郎ども。まあ、そうじるとだ。金さえ積みや堪忍してやるぜってわけだ。あとは金の高だけを争点にすりゃいい。
しかし社長、渡辺氏の示した和解金の想定額はあまりにも膨大です。それだけの余裕はありません。
こんなことになるって分かってたら、高くかなんて始めんじゃなかったぜ。
If we'd known this was going to happen, we never should have started diversifying. Yeah? Yeah. Like, trademark law in the United States is fucking brutal. do you realize what I had to go through to get a trademark on my name? Fuck. Anyway.
3年しのげれば資金的危機は脱出できる計算でした。まさかここで刺されるなんて本当についてない。
ホップステップジャンプのステップでこけちまったんだもんな。泣けるぜ。
メインバンクから金を引っ張るしかありません。
銀行はまずいな。連中は勝ち馬にしか金を出さん。景気は上向いてるが、銀行に弱みは見せられねえ。
社長、母外に資金はありますか？我々の把握していない資金です。
よせやい。俺がそういう男に見えるかよ。俺の財布の中身は全てお前らにさらしてるぜ。
And he's a good boss. He's actually fully transparent with his board of directors. Oh god.
そこにある帳簿が我が社の全てだ。
なら、金策が必要です。数百万ドル単位を引っ張れるスポンサーが大至急必要です。
社長の交友関係で何とかなりませんでしょうか。社長
ああ、落ち着けてめえら。金策は俺が何とかする。お前らはガタガタせずに業務を維持しろ。金さえ積めば向こうは許すと言ってるんだ。すでに俺たちはアジアに太いパイプを持ってる。いろいろ響くだろうが取引は維持できる。要は金さえ積めりゃ全て解決できる問題なんだ。見てろ、俺が全て解決する。お前らを路頭に迷わせなんかしねえぞ。大船に乗った気でいろい。無事に解決したらお前ら全員をシャンパンタワーでねぎらってやるぜ。約束する。だから黙って俺についてこい。いいな。
The airplane suddenly shook. Probably because of the turbulence. That shaking roused Rudolph from his sleep. Okay, so he was dreaming about... Okay. He had woken up early that morning and ended up drifting off to sleep while resting in his seat.
大丈夫？このところだいぶ仕事が忙しかったようだし。
Sorry, hold on.
仕事が忙しいなんて大いに結構じゃねえか。
大丈夫？まだだいぶ眠いんじゃないの？このところだいぶ仕事が忙しかったようだし。大丈夫？
俺が暇になっちまったら俺たち明日から大丈夫。そうだな。で過ごせるよう課長が頑張らねえとな。
When he looked outside the window, he saw that the airplane was already starting to drop in altitude considerably. Fishing boats, which had only looked like black grains until a short while ago, had become clearly visible.
親父に土下座してげんこつ一発で1000万借りられるなら1ダースくらいもらっときてえところなんだがな。さもなきゃとっととお隠れになってくれりゃいいんだが散々すねをかじって今度は遺産目当てか。俺は地獄行きだな。そりゃこんな俺に親父も会いたくはないだろうよ。
まさか今年も親族会議にお出にならないつもりですかな。
Nandra looked at Kinzo's face, sighing. Kinzo's eyes remained rooted to the strange magic book.
ハゲタカどもの議論に加わるつもりはない。好きに我が骨のしゃぶり方でも議論するがよかろう。実にくだらぬ。
やれやれ、困ったものですな。
Nandra shook his head slightly. To him, children and grandchildren were to be adored, and he believed that their growth was the only enjoyment for old men. He He found Kinzo's words to be a very sad thing.
この部屋を出るべき時が来れば私は姿を現す。あれが姿を未だ現さぬようにな。
Kinzo raised his face. In the direction of his gaze was the portrait of the witch, respectfully displayed on the wall. Inside Kinzo's head, there was no conception of today being the day of the family conference, the day when all his dear family would gather together. There was only the face of the witch in the oil painting, who never smiled outside her portrait. Everybody knew that when Kinzo talked about Beatrice unnecessarily cutting in would instigate his wrath.
私は今日、ある儀式を執り行う。
それは何ですかな？
儀式というよりは、博打に近い。なぜなら、リスクを負わぬ魔法に奇跡は宿らぬからだ。
Yes, unfortunately. This is something I have to appreciate about the author. He actually took magical theories seriously when writing this stupid thing. It's stupid, but it's smart at the same time. I don't know how to describe it. But, our magic expert is currently out. I'm the next best person, but as far as I'm aware, Kinzo's magical theory and Beatrice's magical theory can both coexist simultaneously because they are both based off of the same form of Western magic. And unfortunately, Kinzo's right. I hate the guy, but he's right. Nanjo had already heard this countless times. You could call it Kinzo's favorite phrase. It seems that Kinzo believed in magic, and miracles arising through betting his own fate with a certain kind of risky probability in beating the odds.
かつて黄金のギャンブラーと言われた金蔵さんが、いつお迎えが来てもおかしくないそのご老体で、一体どんな博打に挑みますやら。これは見ものですな。
なるほど。研究を尽くした秘術の儀式も魔法に長けぬお前にかかれば博打呼ばわりか。
Yeah. Because you are literally betting the lives of your entire family and your servants and the family doctor on whether or not Beatrice is resurrected or not. And it all comes to naught because Badler keeps denying the witch.
まあいい。
まあいい indeed.
奇跡を信じる私が勝てば、前の目には水郷に見たままの通り、いつ迎えが来てもおかしくない年寄りの水郷に終わるだけだ。
一体どんなギャンブルを始めるやら。あなたの友人としてその賭けに、いや儀式でしたか。その儀式にあなたが勝てるよう心からお祈りするだけです。
感謝する。
そういえば金蔵さん、今年の親族会議には懐かしい客がおられるそうですな。
何？
Kinzo reacted in an unusual way to Nanjo's words and turned around.
ほら、ルドルフさんのところのバトラ君です。6年ぶりにおいでになるそうじゃありませんか。きっと立派になっていますよ。
なんだ、バトラか。6年ぶり程度の客人など懐かしいなどと呼びはせぬ。
Fine. upon hearing Battler's name, he showed an ill-humored expression, as though he had been let down and turned his back to Nanjo again. Given that Battler is the only one capable of surviving in the meta world while simultaneously denying the witch, I understand why Kinzo's disappointed in Battler. Battler could have potentially, given the description of the Black Blood that Beatrice gave, Battler could have taken over as the family sorcerer should he have passed away. And he's disappointed because Battler left the family before he could be versed in magic.
金蔵さんにとっての6年など、この部屋で研究に没頭すればあっという間のことでしょうからな。
本当に懐かしい客は、あるいは訪れるかもしれん。すべてはルーレットの出目次第だ。すでにルーレットは回り始めている。ルージュか、ノワールか。今宵、ルーレットがどんな奇跡を見せてくれるのか楽しませてもらおうではないか。配当は大きいぞ。そして負ける気はせぬ。ベアトリーチェよ、我が賭けを受けるがいい。
Just then, the telephone on the table rang. That piercing noise seemed to displease Kinzo, and he picked up the receiver in order to preserve the silence as much as he could.
何事か。私は忙しい。
親族の皆様。
だからどうだ。
Kinzo hung up the phone rudely. Watching him, Nanjo sighed yet again, and shifted his attention outside the window. As he was now, Kinzo would probably show no interest in any kind of guest. Was there any guest who could make Kinzo agree to come out when he should? He had one person in mind. But that guest was one who could not possibly appear. After a glance at the witch of the portrait, and her candid expression which he could not place as happy or sad, Nanjo gazed up at the leaden sky. Hello, Fifth Dimension! Been a while. Now then, are the pieces all lined up? Let us start a new game, with the pieces all lined up once more.
何か問題は？
ねえよ。
The witch looked at him in challenge while elegantly smoking her pipe. And Battler? He just lovingly shrugged his shoulders as though she wasn't worth his time. He wouldn't look her in the eyes, but that didn't mean he wasn't going to play. It signified his plain determination to never be taken in by the artifices of this being he faced. It was an expression of his powerful determination to fight.
まさか無策ではあるまいな。
お前の出方がわからねえ以上、策も何もねえぜ。好きに先手を取ればいいじゃねえか。
もちろんそうさせていただくぞ。お前の守りをいかに崩すか、何手で詰めるか、わらわの腕の見せ所よ。
お前がどんな手で来ようが、俺はお前を信じない。その一点を俺が貫き通す限り、俺に負けはないってことはだ。このゲームはお前に勝てないようにできてるぜ。
そうかもしれん。しかしな、ゲームを何度繰り返すかはわらわが決めるぞ。そしてわらわが勝ち、そなたが負けを認めるまで何度でも繰り返されるぞ。つまりこれは災難よ。そなたがわらわに屈服するまで続く永遠の災難。そなたがわらわを 魔女の存在を認めるまで永遠に続く。
なら、俺もお前が根負けするまで何度でも無限に付き合ってやるぜ。意地の張り合いってやつでは負けた例がねえんだ。
どこぞの魔女にでも入れ知恵されたか？まあよい。
Okay, so she already knows of Burn Castle's involvement. Great.
コタクは聞き飽きたぜ。さあ、おっ始めやがれ！
さあ、始めようではないか。そなたの指し手はすでに知り尽くしておる。知られた守りなど高同じ手でないぞ。なんだ。
お前が何をのたまおうと自由だ。だが、俺が信じるかどうか、常に俺が自分で決める。貴様の魔法がどれほどのものだったとしても、俺の魂は屈しない。これは俺への拷問だと？違うね。
ならば何だというのか。
これはお前への拷問なのさ。お前がいつ俺に屈し諦めるか。それまで繰り返される拷問なのさ。
面白いかな、その例えやよし。互いを苛み合う拷問とは実に面白い。
That is an interesting way to look at it. They are both in the fifth dimension, torturing each other, until one of them truly and wholeheartedly gives up. As long as there's a spark of resistance in either of them, the game will keep going. Oh gods.
さーて、始めようではないか。後ろ宮バトラー！
Every year, the relatives who visit Rokkenjima let out a sigh of admiration at the rose garden, which first greets them. They stood there talking with each other about the roses' beauty and the state of their blooming this year. There was a single unhealthy rose among them, and Maria became overwhelmed with dejection at its state. But George used his quick wits, and saying she could look after it as she felt sorry for it, he marked it with a candy wrapper and immediately restored Maria's good mood. Let's actually back up a little bit.
Almost.
Okay, so it's not gonna let us back up. I'm gonna save here and take a quick break. We've been going for about an... Let's see, how long... When did I start? I started at... We've been going a little over an hour now. When we come back, we will deal with this next section of the chapter. Because, oh my god, I've got a bad feeling about this round. Like a really bad feeling. And I'm gonna keep going. We're gonna be streaming until midnight, so there's gonna be at least 4 more hours. If we complete this arc in 4 hours, I will be surprised, but I don't think we will. But we're gonna try. But I gotta take a quick break. I need to rest a little bit. We'll be right back, folks.